If you are on a very tight budget and you have, a high ticket offer, something that's 2,000, 3,000, 10,000 plus, easiest thing you can do is only target iPhones and only target iPhones who are on a Wi-Fi network. There have been studies done on this. Generally speaking, I think the average income of an iPhone user is something like 20 to 40% higher than an Android user. So automatically, you can save a good amount of your ad spend. And again, it's not to say that you're going to automatically lose money, but if we're thinking about what is going to be the highest ROI right out of the gate, we want to stack the deck in our favor. So targeting iPhones is really easy. And then the second one, Wi-Fi versus mobile data. Obviously, someone could be using mobile data when they're just, at home lounging around. But a lot of the times, if you're on your phone's mobile data and you're on Facebook or Instagram, what are you doing? You're probably out and about. You might be driving. You might be at the grocery store. You might be, at a friend's house or something. You're not exactly in an environment where you're going to be ready, like I said, to sit down, get educated on a concept, to learn about something and solve some major painful problem, as many coaching funnels do. So where do we really want to target those people? We want to target them when they're at home. They're maybe just taking a quick break. Maybe they're on the couch watching a Netflix show, half paying attention. Those are much more ideal buying environments for coaches, course creators, and agency owners, where we're not just looking for an impulse. If we're really trying to educate, if we're trying to break someone's beliefs and rebuild them in such a way that they would be interested in working with us, we want to stack the deck in our favor. And usually getting someone in that educated mindset is going to do a lot better.
In this episode of the Digital Trailblazer podcast, we are speaking with Lucas Lee-Tyson, and we're going to talk all about the type of ads that are working right now to get coaching clients. So stay tuned.
If you want to build a legitimate, profitable online business without shiny objects, without the hypey gimmicks, and without the stress and overwhelm, if you want to make more money without having to be present online all day, every day, pumping out content that nobody sees and hustling DMs to generate leads and sales, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer podcast, your online business university, where you'll learn how ordinary people start from ground zero with no influence, no email list or audience to sell to, and no business or marketing experience, and go from working 9-to-5 jobs to building successful 6- and 7-figure online businesses and all the steps in between. Learn the strategies that worked and what didn't. Learn the mistakes that they made and how to avoid them, and then learn their plans for scaling their businesses and taking things to the next level. All so that you can build your business faster and easier and make more money without sacrificing the things that are important to you in your life. I'm your host, Leah Ray Getz, and with me is my husband, Todd. Now, let's get to it with today's guest.
Lucas, welcome to the show. Why don't you give our audience just a quick introduction, let them know who you are and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Lucas Lee-Tyson. I've been doing digital marketing for close to 6 or 7 years now. I started off as a freelancer on a platform called Upwork, which a lot of people hire freelancers on. That was how I paid some of my college bills. Eventually, that grew into an agency, and then it grew into a coaching business that ended up doing a little over $50 million. And now I really consult with other coaches, other consultants, other agency owners, and help them do hopefully the same thing using paid ads to get clients.
I really like paid ads, especially for people just getting started out, because usually when people are first starting their online business, they don't have the audience. They don't have a huge YouTube channel. They don't have their podcasts. They don't have a huge following. And trying to build that following from scratch takes a long time. And I think people don't realize how long it really takes to build a YouTube channel or a podcast or something like that. And so paid ads are like the shortcut. This is how you can get in front of a really large audience fast if you know what you're doing. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people, when they jump into paid ads, they're running the wrong campaigns. They're targeting maybe off. They may not even know what to use as a call to action. So let's kind of back up to the beginning. And if we're talking to somebody who's got a coaching program and they're running ads for the first time, what are some of the things that they need to think about or get prepared before they even run their first campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. So the very first thing, you probably heard marketers say it forever, but it's knowing your customer. Just because for a very long time in the paid advertising world, there's been this idea that Facebook, Instagram, Google, their AI magically knows who your customer is because their AI is so advanced. And I do partially believe that. However, it's kind of gotten to this extreme now where there's a lot of advertising and marketing gurus who say to just let it run your campaigns, let your ads run completely broad, 18 to 65 years old to like everyone in the world, basically. And I'll be honest, that can work if you've been running ads for a very long time, because then Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you're running ads, the platform is going to have a very clear idea of, okay, Todd runs this kind of business, and these are clearly his customers from all of these data points that we've seen previously. However, for most clients, if you're getting started with ads for the first time, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, they have no idea who your customer is. You could be selling dog food for all they know. So from the very beginning, it's really, really important that you're very, very specific with who you're going after. For example, if you're a woman's weight loss coach that works with new mothers, I would absolutely only target women who are maybe, let's say, 35 and up or 30 and up, who have an interest in daycares, in infant products, and different things like that. And then I would be very, very specific with my ads. I would make sure the very first 5 seconds of a video, the very first line of that ad would clearly only speak to a new mother of an infant who's trying to, maybe lose the baby weight. This is not something you have to do forever, but it absolutely is going to be crucial in that first $1,000, that first $5,000 that you sink into advertising, so that your advertising account can actually learn who you're trying to attract so that it can do a better job of getting more of those people.
Well, and I remember back in the day when I first started with Facebook ads, this is maybe 2016, 2017. And that was kind of the conventional wisdom then, was that you had half a dozen or so different ad sets, each targeting like a very different, not a very different, but each targeting a different audience. And so you'd have all these ads running, and then you'd kind of prune off the ones that weren't working. And now I think Facebook has made this switch where the audience suggestions or the targeting suggestions are just that, they're suggestions, and Facebook kind of targets what they want anyways. So let me kind of dig into this a little bit. Are you saying that we still want to do the segmented ad sets again and give Facebook the suggestions and still prune off those ones? Or do we not maybe have to go as crazy as we did back then? Or how are we doing this?
I think back in the day, there was definitely this idea of like layering, like you target, a newborn mother who lives in this zip code, you do like 3 or 5 different layers. I don't think you have to be that extreme, but to your point, I would be very, very careful about using any of Facebook's suggestions. So there's one, I believe it's called Audience Advantage Plus. And it basically, like you said, it takes the interest as a suggestion. Absolutely would recommend turning that off if you have a new account. If you have a lot of data, absolutely experiment with that. But we've generally found that the more we let Facebook's AI just take the wheel and, make all these suggestions on a newer account, usually the worse the performance is going to be. Another example, by default, if you're running meta ads, for example, default placements are going to show your ad across all of Meta's ad platforms. So that would be Facebook Stories, Instagram Reels, Facebook Newsfeed, Messenger, sometimes WhatsApp, like every single app that Meta basically owns. And depending on the type of coaching that you might be doing, we've generally found that some of those placements are going to have a much higher attention span than others. For example, Instagram Stories and Instagram Reels, really the entire Instagram platform very heavily skews younger and usually very heavily skews towards a shorter attention span. And it's not to say that it's a bad placement overall, but if I was, in that hypothetical example, if I was a women's weight loss coach for new moms, if I was a real estate investing coach, if I have a funnel or an offer that does require someone to be at least present, like at least watching my content, consuming it, getting a little educated before I make a pitch for a program or a call or whatever, I would usually recommend honestly excluding a lot of those. We've generally found that the highest attention span and usually the slightly more affluent demographics generally use Facebook more, because that's usually a slightly older demographic, which sounds a little weird because it's like, you think about Facebook, it's like, who still uses Facebook? Everyone's on Instagram, everyone's on, these new platforms. But we have really found that when it really just comes to stretching a dollar as far as you can and really just getting the best profit, Facebook is really hard to beat. So that's another thing that we generally find works really well. And one other thing that we've started doing, not even just on new accounts, but all accounts, underneath the placements selection, where you can choose, the different platforms that your ads are going to show, there's an option to choose what kind of devices you show your ads to, like iPhones, iPads, Androids, etc. And then there's also a way to determine whether you target someone who's on their mobile data versus on their Wi-Fi. If you are on a very tight budget and you have, a high ticket offer, something that's 2,000, 3,000, 10,000 plus, easiest thing you can do is only target iPhones and only target iPhones who are on a Wi-Fi network. There have been studies done on this. Generally speaking, I think the average income of an iPhone user is something like 20 to 40% higher than an Android user. So automatically, you can save a good amount of your ad spend. And again, it's not to say that you're going to automatically lose money, but if we're thinking about what is going to be the highest ROI right out of the gate, we want to stack the deck in our favor. So targeting iPhones is really easy. And then the second one, Wi-Fi versus mobile data. Obviously, someone could be using mobile data when they're just, at home lounging around. But a lot of the times, if you're on your phone's mobile data and you're on Facebook or Instagram, what are you doing? You're probably out and about. You might be driving. You might be at the grocery store. You might be, at a friend's house or something. You're not exactly in an environment where you're going to be ready, like I said, to sit down, get educated on a concept, to learn about something and solve some major painful problem, as many coaching funnels do. So where do we really want to target those people? We want to target them when they're at home. They're maybe just taking a quick break. Maybe they're on the couch watching a Netflix show, half paying attention. Those are much more ideal buying environments for coaches, course creators, and agency owners, where we're not just looking for an impulse. An e-commerce store doesn't really have to do a lot of this stuff because they're just trying to sell something for 40, 50 bucks and it just has to look cool. But if we're really trying to educate, if we're trying to break someone's beliefs and rebuild them in such a way that they would be interested in working with us, we want to stack the deck in our favor. And usually getting someone in that educated mindset is going to do a lot better.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, I hadn't heard of that. That's the first time I've heard those numbers broken down like that. Now, is there a difference between mobile and like a desktop or laptop device? Because you can separate that out too, can't you?
Absolutely. If you're doing YouTube ads, which we honestly used to like a lot, that's another really great way to make sure you're stacking the deck is if you're doing YouTube ads, is to start with YouTube desktop. So computers, laptops, etc. With Facebook, Instagram, and all of Meta, that traffic is very small. It's very expensive. I think YouTube actually has the highest desktop usage out of any social media platform, which kind of makes sense. So I wouldn't really recommend doing desktop only on Meta ads, but on YouTube, absolutely. Those are usually, they'll look more expensive. Like the clicks will be not as cheap as mobile, but they're usually a lot higher quality, and the percentage of clicks that turn into leads and then the percentage of leads who end up turning into customers or clients, it's usually much, much higher. So again, this is not to say that any of these things are right or wrong, but if I'm thinking back to, when I was first getting started and I had maybe like $10,000 in my savings account, I really needed that first $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 to get me a result, or else it was just going to be a waste.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, as far as the ad creative, are we doing video ads or are we doing picture ads? Like, what are we doing? Because I've seen both work, and I know that, when I teach beginners, it's usually, well, let's just get something out. Let's not worry about video right now. Let's just get an image ad out there. But does video typically outperform pictures in general, or what is your experience there?
Usually I have found video will have a higher lifetime value. So if you have multiple programs or multiple products, like let's say you have a $3,000 initial program, and then after that you have like a year-long mastermind. We have generally found that the most ascensions, the most upgrades will come from video ads. And my guesstimate would be that's because from the very start, we're starting with someone who's getting to know you through a video, getting educated, they're building rapport, which is a lot harder to do with an image. And it's not to say that images don't work, but generally speaking, if we're looking at, I want to bring in customers who are going to stick with me for 2, 3, 5 years and potentially spend tens of thousands of dollars across all of these different products, programs, and offers you have, video really, really is great. Images are amazing. Number one, if there's an easy way to showcase what you do in an image. So one of our clients, he's basically like a mindset coach, and one of his best performing ads is like this brain scan, and it's like an image, and like part of it's red, part of it's green. You scrolling and you see that and you're like, what the hell is this? Like, it just looks like a really interesting image. And then you start reading the text and you kind of get sucked in. That's a great product to showcase with an image. Number one, because it's easy to depict. And number two, he's selling something right away. So his offer is basically like a $27 mini course which is usually more similar to like how an e-commerce store would advertise. We're trying to go for an impulse purchase. We're trying to make something right away. So that's a scenario where the images actually can work better.
You kind of mentioned something there, is that he's selling something right away with that. What are you typically running ads to? Let's say you get a high ticket coaching program that you want to sell on the back end. With that first ad that you're targeting people with, because I've seen a lot of different opinions here where some people are saying, okay, just running some type of engagement ad where it's a video, you're introducing yourself and you're just getting them to engage or watch a certain portion of the video, and then we retarget them later. Other people are doing just a free PDF guide that people can download just to build your email list, and you nurture them later in a Facebook group or through your email somehow. And then other people are doing, like you were saying, to just an ad to a low ticket offer, $7 on the low end, $27, $47 maybe on the higher end. There's a lot of different ways to do this. And then there's other people who are just doing the ads, going to a webinar or a VSL to an application form. And there may be other things that people are doing, but that's kind of what I've seen. What's in your experience, if you're a brand new coach, you're running ads for the first time, what do you suggest that they're doing that first time around?
If you're spending money on ads for the very first time, I would recommend selling something small right away. The biggest reason being is that we want to get some of our money back as soon as possible. All of those strategies can work great, but like I was saying before, if I only have like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 to spend on ads, I need to make sure that that's not just $4,000 gone that hopefully one day turns into, $5,000 or $10,000. So usually selling something small is a really easy way to do that. Even if you only make half of your money back, well, now you just got paid to some degree to advertise, to reach new people, to build your brand, to build your email list. There's a lot of benefits to doing that. The other big benefit that I've personally found is kind of twofold. Number one, a lot of coaching industries are very competitive. If you do weight loss, the odds are high. Your prospects, your potential customers have seen like 50 other weight loss coaches. And the same thing goes for investing, for building a business, for relationships, etc. So a lot of people kind of know, like if they see someone on social media giving advice, they're probably in the back of their head thinking, what is this person going to sell me? And usually, generally speaking, people are a little afraid to spend a lot of money up front, but especially now with a lot of things going on in the world and the economy, a lot of people are a little hesitant to make that pretty major purchase right away. So in my opinion, this is just, an estimate from what we've seen, but in my opinion, if someone sees someone offering value and then you look in their bio and they have a book for $10 or they have, a mini course for $27, to me, that seems like a pretty easy justification of value. If I watched someone's Instagram reel, I'm like, wow, that's valuable. I absolutely would just go to Amazon and buy their book because that seems like the next logical step in the sequence. So number one, I think it aligns better with people's purchasing patterns. It's not asking for a significant ask up front, which a lot of people are afraid to do, but especially now. But then number two, one of the other huge benefits that I think there is of it is that it builds belief. We actually ran this test because back in August, I'd put together this really awesome training. It was this training on angles, which is one of my favorite parts of marketing, basically like the idea behind the first 10 seconds of an ad. So I spent like a week making the slides for it, making a really great presentation. I've recorded it, our team edited it. I honestly thought it was one of our best trainings. And I was going to be generous. I was just going to be like, all right, guys, we just made this amazing training, email it out to everyone completely for free. And they're going to see the value in it. They're going to see that it's so amazing that they're just going to want to join our highest level mastermind, basically. And we did that. We put it together. We put it completely for free. We emailed it out. And I think between our email list and a small amount of ads that we ran, we got 300 or 400 clicks. And you're familiar with Wistia or those video hosting platforms where you can see the chart of the plays, the retention. I think maybe 30 people watched past the first 30 seconds. And I was like, well, I just spent the better part of a week and a half and probably a few $1,000s in my team's expenses making an amazing training that literally no one consumed. And I realized it was because it's well, how many things in emails do I get? How many things on social media do I see where I'm like, that's cool, and I save it, and then I never watch it. I never come back to it. And it's because it's there's an overwhelm of free information. Information itself is kind of a commodity. So in my head, I was like, well, no one saw it, so now I want to get some use out of it. So literally all we did was we recorded a 3-minute video that was basically selling this masterclass, that was selling like why this is the most amazing thing in the world. And we literally just charged $9 for it. Like we weren't going to charge anything significant. But my mindset was, if I can at least get someone to go through the effort of doing their Apple Pay, entering in their credit card, whatever, this is going to actually increase the retention. And that is what ended up happening. We got not a huge amount, but we got like 30 or 40 sales. But then out of those, 3 of them ended up turning into mastermind clients for our highest level year-long program. So that was kind of a reminder for me that when people pay, they pay attention. When people have a reason to actually consume a piece of information, they're going to do it. And even a tiny little $9 transaction, most cheaper than any fast food place you could go in America, that is usually going to be enough for someone to actually take you seriously versus being one of the 1,000 pieces of bookmarked information that they never end up going through,
So did you run ads to sell that? Or was it just your email list that you were promoting that?
We did a small amount of ads, but pretty much every single person that has ever known me has come from an ad. Like up until like 6 weeks ago, I never even posted on social media. It's pretty safe to assume that like 99.99% of any dollar I've generated in business, they saw me through an ad. So the people on the email list had originally come from ads.
That's the other nice thing about ads, is that when you get them to work really well, you don't have to do the whole social media hustle anymore. So when you're running that ad for the low ticket offer, and you kind of mentioned this, is that, if you can at least make half your money back, it's good. What do you typically expect when you're running ads to a low ticket offer, as far as, I think they call it liquidation, right? 80% liquidation, 50% liquidation. How much of your money do you expect to make back whenever you're running ads to a low ticket offer like that?
It depends on the industry. Digital marketing and business coaching is very competitive. So we shoot for usually like 50% liquidation. However, we have a few clients, like we actually do have a client that's like literally in like dog training and pet training, and she makes money on the very first purchase. So her return is like, it's like 1.2. It's not like she's getting rich, but if I can spend $10,000 on ads and make 12,000 back, and now I have 300, 500 people who are interested, they know me, they've already transacted with me, and they're candidates for some of my higher level programs, and that's obviously amazing. But I would say the average for most of our clients is around like a 50 to 80%. So you spend 10,000, the goal would be make 5,000 to 8,000 back.
And then do you have order bumps and OTOs after that as well?
Yes. Yep. So we've always done 2 upsells. So after someone completes the purchase, they're going to get offered 2 other products. So to map out the whole structure, usually we recommend doing, for the very first product that you sell, the front end product, as they call it, we usually recommend doing that at either $27 or $97. Those are 2 great price points, depending on your industry, depending on what you're actually selling. It's probably like 90% of our clients and 90% of what we sell. Then on the actual checkout, there's going to be, usually we recommend doing 2 order bumps. So these are little check boxes that people can select. We're not making a huge sales pitch for these products. They're usually just like 2 sentences. And these products, we usually do $37 or $47. So right away, we can turn a small $27 purchase theoretically into $100 worth of value. Then after someone has selected whatever order bumps they want, they click the checkout button, their credit card gets charged for that initial purchase. They'll get redirected to an upsell page, which are usually very simple. Usually I'll record just like a 90-second video just saying, hey, congratulations on making your purchase, for taking this leap of faith with us, for voting with confidence. We're more than happy to offer you this program, which maybe is not available anywhere else. Maybe it's a significantly more expensive price, but on this page, only because you just bought, you can get access to it for $97. Usually we'll do 2 of those. The first upsell will usually be $197, so $200. Then the second upsell will be $100 or $97.
Now, do you have any sort of philosophy as to what type of products you're offering at each step here? So for example, maybe that first one is like a masterclass or a mini course, and then the order bump is maybe some templates or something that go along with it. And then the first OTO, maybe that's a low ticket membership that they're doing month after month, or is that like a different course? Do you have a philosophy of what you're offering at each step?
The 2 things that we always sell is either a pack of resources, so like templates, checklists, things like that. Those are probably the easiest because like if I just said like, hey, I'll give you 50 of my top performing ad templates for $27, like I don't even really need a longer sales pitch than that. It kind of speaks for itself. That's always one of the easiest things to sell. The other thing is basically what we call masterclasses, which is, it's honestly kind of like what a webinar normally would be. So a webinar, you introduce yourself, you talk about your credibility, and then you're usually going to teach like 3 steps to losing weight, 3 steps to invest in your first rental property, whatever. That's very similar to what we do for a masterclass, except instead of doing a free webinar, you can put it behind this small paywall. We call them masterclasses because it's supposed to be like the 30,000 foot view of what you actually teach to clients. And that's a huge part of what we do. Is many of our clients, they do a lot of different things. They have a lot of value that they can provide to clients. And we really try and distill down what is the most valuable path, what is like the journey that you take someone on that is truly seen as the most valuable, because that's what people are willing to pay the most money for. And then we'll basically put the high level overview of that process into a masterclass, charge $27 for it, and then we can start running ads to it.
And then for the other upsells, what are you typically offering there? Is it mini courses or maybe full courses that you're doing on the other 2 steps, the OTOs?
It's honestly more of the same. So the longest performing, best performing upsell that we've ever had in our business, we've literally done it for every single low ticket funnel we've ever done, is $197, and we call it our done for you asset vault. So this is basically a vault of all of our templates for writing emails and creating sales copy and sales scripts and everything like that. So literally no matter what we're selling on the front end, we'll always put that first, $197. People love it and it's great value. It is absolutely something that someone who's very DIY focused, it's going to give them a huge head start, but it's not going to give away all the secrets of our business. Like it's just templates, scripts, but that's what people like buying. They like buying packs of resources, of things that they feel like they couldn't get on YouTube or Google for free.
That's a good point. Those are things, especially the done for you, and then you can't get it anywhere else. Because I imagine a lot of people are thinking trainings or mini courses, you can find a lot of the same information for free elsewhere. But those templates, yeah, and it makes it real tangible. I like that idea. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. And we see so many times in clients' businesses with all of the programs that they offer, all of the content they create, they're sitting on literally millions of dollars of assets that they either give away for free or they literally don't do anything with. And that's sometimes the tough part of being an entrepreneur, is we're always thinking about like, oh, what's the cool next thing? Or what's like this new shiny object that I can chase? Not realizing that we literally have all of these shiny objects that people would value if they just knew about it. And it was the same, thing of when I had made that masterclass, gave it away for free, no one valued it. It's literally sometimes just a matter of framing it so that it is valuable. People actually want to go through it. And that's going to kind of be the foot in the door that opens up this entire other customer relationship. So those are really, really easy. And I would encourage anyone listening, take a look through all of your courses, all of your programs. I guarantee there's some small part of it that you've already created that you could pull out and create an independent product around and probably use that to get tons of new clients in the door.
Yeah. Well, and I imagine for fitness coaches, you probably have diet plans, you probably have calculators, you've probably got a bunch of those done for you things that you kind of already created. I'm thinking like life coaches, mindset coaches. Did you have any ideas of what those types of people could offer, or that would already be templated or something like that?
I guess you'd say like intangible coaching. So like mindset, life coaching, etc. Exercises are really, really great. So one of our clients, literally, it's basically like 10 minutes worth of like meditations. It's 3-minute meditations. But the cool thing is there's like a way to like personalize it. So it's not like just like a YouTube meditation, but it's like specific to the person's goals. It's pretty cool. It's kind of like a make your own meditation using this template. So things like that are great. I think the underlying desire is that people want something tangible. AI and just the overwhelm of information. If you're just selling, videos or a course, automatically you're going to have a harder time, because so many people have heard about like this course, that course. They feel like I can just go to ChatGPT and ask it for this information. But like you were saying, if it's something that's already done for you, if it's something that's proven, if it's something that someone would only be able to get from having your years of experience as a coach, that is what people will absolutely still pay for. So for me, It took me and my team maybe like 20 minutes to compile all of those templates, but that was because we had spent 6 years building up and refining and battle testing so many of these templates. That's really what made it actually valuable to people. It's honestly a lot of times just rethinking how you're thinking about your knowledge, your expertise, and your business. Is not always just about make more things. Probably already have the things created. We just need to frame them in the right way.
Now, when you said 50% liquidation, or you spend $10, you maybe get 5 back with these types of ads, is that when they go through all of the OTOs, or is that just on the front end there?
Correct. Yeah. So the average order value, the average amount of customer spends across the whole funnel is usually going to be about 50 to 80%.
And then on the back end of that, how are you turning those people into high ticket coaching clients? Are you retargeting them with other ads? Are you calling your leads? Are you inviting them to a webinar or a masterclass later on through email? What's that next step?
The two most common ways that we teach clients to do it is essentially going straight to an application or going to a webinar. So the two biggest areas where we get our high ticket clients and where our clients do is on the confirmation page. So after someone has completed the purchase, we say, congratulations for getting started with this. And usually we'll tell them that this is included, but we'll tell them the very first thing you should do is book a one-on-one onboarding call with our team. And this is basically a client success manager on our team who welcomes them, makes sure they have, access to everything that they purchased. And then if they seem receptive, if they seem interested, in like the last 5 minutes of that call, they'll do a soft pitch for, hey, Lucas has this program where he works privately one-on-one with business owners. Do you think that might be something that would fit for you right now? The goal is usually that we want at least 30 to 50% of our purchasers ending up booking a call. So if I get 100 purchases, I want 30 or 50 people interested in my higher level programs. A good amount of those calls and applications are going to come right on that confirmation page. And then the second area is inside of the product. So the other reason I really love, low ticket products is because you're essentially getting someone to pay you to go through a sales funnel. You're getting someone to pay you to learn and get educated and break old beliefs that would make them a greater candidate for some of your higher level programs. So inside the program itself, no matter whether you're doing the template pack approach or the masterclass approach, we'll always have basically the equivalent of like a webinar inside of the product, like a 30, 45-minute video that kind of just explains our expertise, teaches them 2 to 3 valuable things, and then at the end makes a very clear pitch to our higher level programs. And there's other things that we can do. We send marketing emails every single day to our buyers to educate them, to get them on a call. We've never really done that much like cold calling of people or even really running ads to existing customers. The vast majority of higher level applications and clients are going to come from right on the confirmation page, from people going through the product itself, and then emails either directly telling them about our higher level offerings or emails that are just redirecting them to actually continue going through the training they already purchased.
Okay, gotcha. So like you said, there's no outbound calls. You're just having people book themselves on your calendar and it's all incoming. It's not like you're having to hunt people down.
Exactly. And I'm sure we could make a little more money if we did outbound, but I'm a marketer. I like having people come to me. I'm a little lazy. I think they make the best clients because then it's people raising their hand and saying, hey, I really like this. I really like you. I want to work with you at a higher level. So we have an amazing retention rate. We have really great lifetime value from the low ticket products because of that.
That's nice. I've heard this type of funnel being run all the time. And the people who are doing it well are typically they're the multiple 7, 8-figure earners in the business. So I think there's something to be said for this strategy when you see so many successful people leveraging it. One of the other things I wanted to ask is I've seen in a lot of these funnels, people are offering ongoing memberships, and it's typically a low ticket thing. It may only be 10, 20, 30 bucks a month, but it's some sort of low ticket membership. Is that a good offer to stick in there as well? Or is that something where there's maybe better options?
I think for most people, it's honestly not that good an offer. You need to have a client base or a customer base that really values community. Like, for example, there's this one business, I think it's called Nurse Coach Collective. And it basically teaches people how to become nurses or nurse coaches. And that is a membership that works really, really well because that's a very tight-knit community. It's nurses meeting other nurses and they kind of form these relationships and they feel like they're going through something together. It's very bonding. I think communities like that can work really, really well. But if I'm thinking about like a weight loss community or like a real estate investing community, most people don't really care about making that part of their identity. They're just like, teach me how to lose weight, teach me how to get rich, So it works really well if it is a big part of someone's current identity or the identity that they want to have. Then absolutely, they're going to value a community where they can meet other like-minded individuals. But I bought plenty of programs where I'm like, I don't really care about who else is in this program. Just teach me what I need to do so I can get the result, go on my way. But that's also kind of just me. So I'm sure there's some people that are a little different than that. But generally speaking, I would not default to an offer like that unless there's a really, really great reason to.
Now, as far as ad spend, I know a lot of people are probably thinking about, well, how much am I going to have to put in the ads and how fast of a turnaround could I get a high ticket client and make profit on this? When you're working with new coaches and you're running this funnel for the first time, what is a typical daily ad spend that you're putting into it? And how long of a turnaround before they start seeing the bookings come into the calendar and they're landing high ticket clients?
Yeah. So for budget, I usually recommend spending at least $200 to $400 a day. And usually I would recommend having at least $5,000 set aside. If you're not in a position in business where you could just lose that $5,000, like it's lit on fire and you get nothing out of it, I would probably steer away from paid ads just because that will almost never happen. But it's a good place to think just in terms of mindset. Like if your back's truly up against the wall, you're not going to make the best decisions when it comes to advertising. It's very similar to day trading stocks. It's very much about managing emotions. And sometimes, if you're spending your own money, you're not getting the results you want immediately. It's easy to make an emotional decision rather than an informed decision. So I always try and just make sure that we're in a good mind space for it. However, like I said, number one, that almost never happens. And number two, one of the biggest reasons I love these funnels is because when people come through and everything's set up correctly, they're usually going to be very, very qualified. In most other funnels, it's not uncommon that a coach might speak to 10, 20, 30 people on the phone and they might not close anyone. Not because they're not the world's most amazing salesperson, but just because none of them were that bought in. They just weren't a good fit. It just wasn't the right alignment. So there's not much you can do in those scenarios. But we've had many, many instances where the first 2 or 3 customers who come through, every single one of them books a call, and then one of them ends up turning into a high ticket client. And that's because with a lot of these funnels, our coaches and our clients are solving a very specific, painful problem. So they're not trying to advertise and reach hundreds of thousands of people, but they're definitely trying to get the right people through the door. And like I was talking about before, if you have someone who is the right fit for your program right in front of you, you could have the world's most amazing information. You could have the most amazing funnel, but if they don't watch it, you're never going to be able to help them. So it's almost like that initial purchase is kind of like a little stepping stone to actually get them to start consuming your material. And that drastically increases the odds that they will end up working with you. So with pretty much every single one of our clients, the goal would be in the first 3,000 to 5,000, they've gotten their first high ticket client for one of their higher level programs. The only 2 ways that wouldn't happen is number one, if they're running ads, they're spending money and they're getting a lot of purchases, but none of the purchases are qualified or are booking calls in the first place. That's one area that we could troubleshoot. The second area, which is usually less common, but it can happen, is you spend a bunch of money on ads, but no one buys at all. So now we don't even have candidates for it. So depending on, the industry and depending on what happens with the ads, those would be the 2 kind of fail safes, kind of the 2 areas of troubleshooting that we go down. And then obviously there are definitely some clients where things just work immediately right at a gate. And we would want that for every single business, but I'd be lying if I was saying that happened with every single person. Like almost every single funnel I launch, it's not just home run out of the park for our own business. There's usually some tweaking, some troubleshooting that goes into it.
Yeah. Well, and that should go without saying for just about anything that you do. Like there's no guarantees in life. I do like what you said about the mindset game because that is such a huge part of it. I remember running ads for our very first online course. And even though the ads were doing well, I was logging into that ad manager several times a day to check on the ad cost. And it's like, oh, it went up $1. Oh, what's wrong? And just freaking out over every little, and it affected my mood throughout the day. If the ad cost went up, oh, I'm freaking out. I'm going to lose my business. Everything's going to crash and burn. And then ad costs would come down and sales are coming in. It's like, oh, we're going to be rich. This is so great. Let's go out and eat. Let's have, let's celebrate. And then on the way to the restaurant, I'm on my phone again, looking at it. It's like, oh no, stop the car. Let's turn around. And it is such a roller coaster if you don't know what to expect. Honestly, it took me a while to get over that, to just be able to run the ads and not worry about it and maybe look at it once a day or a couple times a week, depending on how much I'm spending. But yeah, it's a big mental game. But like you were saying, there's indicators pretty early on. It's not like you're spending $200 to $400 a day and you got to wait till the end of the month to figure out if it worked or not. You kind of have a good indication even within those first 3 to 5 days of, okay, is this working or not? Are we getting the clicks? Are we getting conversions? What are the costs coming back as? And you can make your adjustments as you go.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I was talking about before, one of my biggest points of focus in our own business and with all of our clients is always the angle. So it's, what is the idea we're presenting to people in the first 10 seconds? We will always launch a new client and a new offer in our own business with at least 4 to 6 unique angles. So in the example of, let's say, the women's weight loss coach for new moms, we might have one ad where the first 10 seconds talks about how difficult it is sleeping after having a newborn. We're not even talking about weight loss at this point, but we're just trying a new idea of starting on an ad. Then maybe we have one that speaks directly to weight loss. We have one that talks about the pain and the aches and the stresses that come with post-pregnancy. We always want to try and diversify our ideas as much as possible so that in that first week or so of running the ads, we have a really clear idea of what's landing in people's heads. Because maybe we might have been off. Maybe, these women don't even care about losing the weight, but they're just trying to get some of their sleep and some of their sanity back. Well, now that's a really important data point of how we can adjust the funnel. We can adjust the offer. We can pretty much make sure that everything after the initial ad that they clicked on lines up with that. So there's a lot of tweaks that will happen early on. And when we build a funnel like this for a client, or we build it for ourselves, we want to make it as modular as possible. We want to make it kind of like building blocks so that then if we say, okay, this angle, this ad is really resonating with people, we can very easily swap out this part of the funnel, put in a new building block without having to throw everything away and redo it from scratch. And it's little tweaks like that. Like literally, clients don't believe me until they see it themselves. But the first 10 seconds of an ad, the first 30 seconds of your VSL, your sales funnel, whatever, that could be the difference between you just lighting money on fire and not getting anywhere versus like a 5x, a 10x return on your investment. So it's really important that we build it to be modular, like I said, that we can slot in and slot out different parts so that we know what exactly we should be testing and optimizing to make sure they're getting the most bang for their buck.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say that even when I'm writing ad copy, the thing I probably focus on the most is that very first line, and make sure that we've got a good pattern interrupt that hooks people in and it gets them to click that read more button. Like you said, it drives so much. It's a difference between burning your money and making a profit, right? Now, once you've kind of got everything optimized, what are you typically looking to get as far as return on ad spend?
When it's all said and done, and this is also something we'll do, is we'll help clients with their back end, their high ticket offers, make sure that those are set up and optimized as best as possible. But generally speaking, in our own business, I'm always going to be shooting for at least a 4 to 5x. That when it's all said and done, if I spent $50,000 in ads in a month, I would want to make at least 250,000 of that across a lot of our different programs. And obviously, we've been doing this for a while. We have a lot of different offers inside of our business, which definitely helps with that. If you look at any big personal development coach like Tony Robbins, Russell Brunson, Marie Forleo, they have like hundreds of things that you could theoretically spend money with. So they're going to do a very great job at recouping that advertising money back. But with most of our clients, they're usually getting started with like one flagship high ticket program, and then we're just helping them attach, a low ticket product to it. And usually they're able to get some similar results if we've set up everything correctly with them.
Lucas, this has been just so insightful. I really appreciate everything that you've given us today. And I know that with ads and the creatives and the funnels and all that stuff, that we're just kind of just scratching the surface of what ultimately needs to be done in order to get this optimized. If people want to learn more about you and what you do, check you out, maybe see if you can help them, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my consulting business is called License to Print. That's where we work with coaches, consultants, agency owners. Our website's license2print.com, and I'll make sure to send over, one of those resource packs actually that you could distribute completely for free. It should be a link I'm sure they could click around here. So if they are interested in seeing some of our best performing ads, some of the funnels and examples of what those look like, I'll make sure to give that out to your audience as well.
Awesome. Perfect. That will be, I'm sure, just incredibly helpful for people. We will have the links for all of that in the show notes. So be sure to check that out. Lucas, thank you so much for being with us. We really enjoyed having you on the podcast today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. For show notes and information about today's guest, head to digitaltrailblazer.com. Now, if you love this episode, if you got some value, make sure you leave us a review and subscribe. And be sure to share this episode with anyone you know who could use help to build their business. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.